Hey everyone, this is Jordan Ramirez, and welcome to a brand new episode of Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez. And I am here with a special guest, the writer of the new project entitled For Love of the American Dream. Ben, is it pronounced Dolce, or how do I pronounce your last name?
Correctly is Dolce, but in the States they all say Dolt, so that's usually how it's
Okay, Ben,
pronounced, Dolts.
Ben Dolce. So before we get into For Love of the American Dream, tell us a little about yourself and how you came to be a writer and a freelance writer.
I took a bit of an unconventional path. I was by education a chemical engineer. I worked
Hmm.
as an engineer for almost 20 years, actually over 20 years, 20,
Hmm.
20 plus years.
Okay.
And I had a tragedy in my life. I lost my son, my marriage fell apart, and I was
Mm.
at a crossroads. It was a decision I had to make, and I didn't want to be an engineer anymore, which is
No.
pretty drastic, but I had something else to fall back on, and that was writing. I had
Mm.
written as a hobby since high school. I
Mm.
had a few things grab my attention. I was one of those weird people that kind of straddled both the creative and the analytical, scientific kind of side. So I always wrote as a hobby, and I
Mm.
like creative writing. I got into all kinds of stories, horror, thrillers, and whatnot.
Mm.
And I was always intrigued by story structure. That was the other
Mm.
thing that I was always studying. It just, especially with Star Wars. Star Wars was a revelation to me. I was 16 years old. And I was like, why did that story work so well? And other stories that were pretty similar didn't. So
Mm.
I was always dabbling in that. And when I hit this crossroads in my life, I said, you know what? I think I'm going to try to become a writer full time.
Mm.
I'm in a place where I think I want to be a little more solitary. Engineering was in front of people constantly, many, many hours a day, traveling all the time. I want to do something where I can stay home, work, go to my desk, work, you know, explore this writing thing I have inside me. So I figured I'd give that a try, and to my surprise, I did pretty well. I started
Mm.
out on Fiverr and Upwork, and
Mm.
things kind of took off, and I'm basically word of mouth now, and that's how I got into the writing game. I met some people along the way who were lucky enough to give me a break, give me work, so I could pay the bills, and I've just gotten more and more into the writing, and that's how I got here.
Mm. That's an amazing story. And I liked your bio, and I congratulate you on your full-time uh commission to be a writer. And I want to say I tried to get into your website, but I guess for some reason when I tried to put in bionicworks.com, it either didn't load very fast or it just took me to another website. I don't know if it's on my end, but I just thought I would let you know about that. But other than that, this project for Love of the American Dream, it's an interesting project that maybe someone would say this is something that we have seen hundreds of times in storytelling, in film, and in television, and in books and in journals. So, so what made you become part of this project, and how did you come to understand what Tessa wanted in this project overall?
Originally, Tess had gone out, and Tess, for those out there, we're talking about the producer of this film. She has a small production company, and she had this concept that she was very passionate about that she wanted to make. And she had hired three writers before me,
Mm.
and they had actually all taken a crack at the script.
Mm.
And what happened was she got four very distinct stories about immigrants trying
Mm.
to get through bureaucratic mess legally.
Mm.
And the four separate stories were all good, but they had no connectivity.
Mm.
So she contacted me at that time. I was still working on Fiverr, and
Mm.
she contacted me through Fiverr, and she asked me would I like to get involved. And originally I said no.
Mm.
I was young, but and from my point of view, when I was in my 50s at that point, this isn't a subject I think tends to appeal to a younger audience. So I was like, I don't know if I would actually fit, to that story as
Mm.
well as I should. And the fact that there were three writers on the project, all kinds of flags went up. And I
Mm.
was like, okay, do I really want to get into this project?
Mm.
So, and I think she sensed that. She said, can I send you the script as it sits?
Mm.
Sure. There's nothing to lose there. I'll take a look.
Mm.
Well, when I got the script, she was right. There's four very good independent stories over about 100 years. These
Mm.
were immigrants starting in about the 1930s, late 30s, early 40s, all the way up to now,
Mm.
trying to immigrate into the country. And they're pretty dramatic. It's amazing what people were trying to go through just to come and live here.
Mm.
So I got back to her. I said, you've got what I would call a hyperlink movie. And she
Mm,
didn't know what that was. And I explained it. I said, I think that's really where we're going.
mm,
And I had never written a hyperlink movie, but I always wanted to.
mm,
And this was a perfect candidate. And I started to think about whether I could actually address the audience as well as I should. And I had a lot of interaction as an engineer with people who had immigrated here, some who
mm,
came as uh, fleeing countries in war-torn countries. One of them was from Vietnam. He was tortured by the North Vietnamese, and he had to come here to protect his family. So I'd been exposed to some of these issues personally. And I carried
mm,
that inside me. I said, okay, I think I can tap that, and I really do want to tackle this hyperlink story.
mm,
And I said, all right, I'm going to give you some ideas, Tess, and if you like them, let's do this thing. So I sent her the ideas for the hyperlinks. And at that point, she said, this is great. I love it. Let's do this. So that's how we got out of the shoot. We've been working on it for quite a few years now. And
mm.
it's actually gotten someplace that's kind of special. And we can talk about why I think it's special a little more later. But that was a long version, but it wasn't a short path because the original answer is I wasn't interested. I was not sure I should do this.
Mm.
So I was probably not what you expect. I apologize.
No, no, it's fine. So we are now in an interesting period. Do you hear an echo? I don't know if it's me or maybe it's something reverberating. Uh,
I
no,
don't, but there is a fan on the GPU that kicked in. I wonder if you're picking that up.
I. Oh no, I think it's my fan. I think my fan is making that sound. Okay, so
Yeah, just looking. I think the
yeah,
noise reduction is taking that out here. Yes.
okay. I'll try to put voice a little bit closer. Okay, so now that we have gotten why you were interested in this project, so we are in this interesting time where the immigration issue is a little bit wonky at the moment, and we've had like other countries issuing travel advisory warnings of coming to the United States. So, what would you say is the importance of this project in this interesting time period, and how would you get that across to those who want to understand the American dream?
Well, you just hit on the key, and that actually ties back to a little bit what we just talked about in the last question.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I realized as I looked at this is there's a core question to all this, which is the American dream still real? Is it still alive?
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got the Americans that live here that can be very negative about the country, criticize it, and really bash it. And you've got these people risking life and limb in some cases, everything financially to get here to live because they clearly think the American dream still is alive and well. But I
Mm-hmm.
look at a lot of Americans who don't seem to think so. So we're at a time where I think that's a fair question.
Mm-hmm.
So that interested me and it pulled me in, and that is something to talk about now. But also that tied directly to the other aspect of this, which is I started to realize as I started to research this a little and talk to people that most people aren't aware of how hard it really is to immigrate here through proper channels. How
Mm-hmm.
much resistance, red tape, how much prejudice and hate even that you run into as you try to get from one of the characters is from India. And it's
Mm-hmm.
amazing how many times he had to try to get to this country. And then the other aspect of that that I think makes it relevant is all four of these stories are based on real stories.
Mm-hmm.
So unlike the Coen brothers, where we start, we say this is a true story, and it's all kind of tongue in cheek. These are
Yes.
really true stories.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of meat to this. Yeah, the immigration issue is, I like your word wonky. I'm not sure that I want to apply it when I'm talking about the script. Tess would
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that. But by the way, when she approached me, that was another reason I didn't want to take the project. I told her, I said, everyone's focused on the southern border and the illegal immigration. And this story is about the legal immigration. So it was really a new issue, some issues that only people are aware of, and getting to the is the American dream still alive question, which is really kind of at the heart of the matter because these immigrants trying to come here legally, they want that worse than anything. Like I said, they're willing to risk everything for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a fresh take on all this, and I haven't seen a spotlight on that. Haven't seen those questions asked, and to do it with a story that covers different time periods. We got somebody coming in the late 30s, early 40s, somebody in I'd say 1980s, around the 2000s, about 9/11, and then current day. So we're
Hmm.
covering a huge time period too. So that makes it a little fresh, if you will, and something that might be of interest to people. That's at least that's my belief. Clearly, I have some passion for it too.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, that does answer my question. So thank you for addressing it. The importance and the current news are sort of like interlinked, but I want to speak out because I am the son. Well, I am on my dad's side, I'm a first generation American, and on my mother's side, I'm a second generation American because both of my both of my families on my mom and dad's side, they came from South America. On my mom's side, my grandmother did not immigrate to this country until the early 1960s. My grandfather, my mom's dad, started coming to the United States when he enlisted during the Second World War, uh, when he was a teenager, and he never fought in any action. He never saw any action during the war. His job was to protect the borders from any enemies like the Japanese or the Germans from entering the American borders, which I thought was a pretty interesting. And for my dad and my on my dad's side, he came to this country uh with my grandparents, my dad's parents, and my dad's siblings, my aunts and my uncle, in the 1980s to California, and then they immigrated, and then they moved here to Florida. So it's a pretty interesting dynamic uh as somebody who could try to relate to this story because I am the son of people who on my dad's side came to this who came to this country. I am a first generation American, and as I mentioned, my mom is a first generation, and I am second generation. But I just thought I would bring that up because it does feel entirely relevant into what you have expressed about in this story.
So now I don't think this is fair, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm
Okay.
going to I'll ask you a question, even though you're the interviewing supposed to be interviewing me. Did
Yeah.
they find it difficult, like I've been finding with just about everyone I've talked to? Did they find it as difficult as what I'm hearing? Everyone says it's just unbelievably full of red tape and almost impossible. Did they
Mm.
find that?
So for my grandmother, when she first came to this country, she did it was sort of a risk taker to come to the United States because as I interviewed her, she told me that her father was my great grandfather was a nationalist. Like he wanted to remain in Ecuador and he didn't want to come to the United States. But for her, because she was able to take care of herself, but life in the United States would be hard, she she wanted to risk it. She wanted to make it to New York because one of her sisters did come to the United States. And then when she did come to the United States, it's not like the system is now. It was extremely different. She went, I think, first to, I don't know if Ellis Island closed during the 1960s or it was open until it's closing in the 60s. I cannot tell on that one.
I think it
Um,
closed in like the early 1950s, if I remember right.
Okay, so I guess she didn't
Didn't
go
it
to
close?
Ellis Island. I think she went straight to New York. She took a boat from Ecuador all the way to the United States. She went on boat. She traveled by boat, and then she went through the customs, and then she didn't start out like working at a high-paying job. She had to start at the bottom, like every other person who has to come here and get a job and to be able to live in the United States. So that was how she went through it. As for my dad and my dad's family, I don't know how they went. I don't know what barriers they encountered when they first came to this country. But my dad, what he would tell me was when he envisioned America, he would usually see like movies like teen comedies from the 1980s. That was like what he saw through those movies and those television shows that came from that decade. He thought that was what America was supposed to look like because he thought it was all about, that lifestyle about being, able to live in nice neighborhoods and things like that. But I guess when he first came to California, with my grandparents and my relatives, the experience for them was a little bit pessimistic, but he tried to make the most of what he of what they could do because he came to this country to become an engineer, and so did my uncle, and I think my aunts were studying for teaching degrees at that time. But I don't know if their experience was a little bit problematic or whatnot. So that's all I could tell about from my dad's experience when he was coming to this country. But he's still I don't know if he still travels because he's part of this big engineering company now, and he does a lot of art engineering projects in South American countries as part of this big company called Arcadis. But that's where that's the story of how for my grandparents on my mom's side, and or in this case my grandmother, and in this case my dad, and how he came to this country, on how they came in. As we mentioned earlier, if there were any problems or barriers, I don't know about that. They haven't gone into full detail of what they went through.
You touched on one of the other issues that I didn't, and I want to reinforce it. That's one of the things that just amazed me about the four stories in the screenplay. They said they're based on real stories. Once they got through the red tape, some of the prejudice and issues they ran into to try to live here, they couldn't find a job. There were people who did not want anything to do with them. One of the main characters even ended up in a border prison
Mm,
on the U.S.-Mexican border,
mm,
falsely accused, falsely, and she has that woman had a unbelievably horrible story. I
mm,
can't believe it what she went through, and she got through it thankfully. But the treatment once went through all that red tape was in some cases even worse. I mean, they literally were risking everything so that they could establish a family here and live here. So some of that's very consistent with what I've been told. I talked to a lot of people to prepare to write the script, and that's the other thing that you said. It's almost embarrassing as an American that people that fought so hard to get here were very badly treated, not
mm,
not even considered for employment just because they came from someplace else. They were, you know, uh, uh, I don't want to say stereotype, but I
mm-hmm.
can't think of a stronger word right now. I was looking for a
No.
stronger word to be honest. And just on the basis of that, they weren't hired, and that's awful. And that's
Mm,
why I think this story needs to be told. I don't think people are aware of how much somebody coming to this country through proper channels
mm-hmm.
cases. I mean, it's actually eye opening, and it's almost horrendous what some people have to endure.
Yeah.
And that's what led to the American dream question. Is the American dream still here? It sure seems to be because once those people get through it, almost universally, they all
Mm,
say, "I'm so glad I did it because
mm-hmm.
my life is so much better now." So
Mm,
that's really kind of the hidden question in all this, which makes this screenplay kind of fun from that aspect. Kind of makes you think about where we're living, the times we're in, these issues we're dealing with, and kind of puts a lot of things in perspective when you start thinking about them just a little bit different. You have this whole legal immigration issue, which kind of gets lost in the news with all the talk about illegal immigration.
mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and
But
yeah, I
yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
And now a message from Jordan Ramirez for Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez.
I want to take a break from this episode to thank my listeners/viewers who watch the videos on my YouTube channel and listen to each new episode on Spotify. While this show is a labor of love and passion that isn't about the movies that I like, this is also a show that is about the films that you like. Have a film that you want to recommend to the podcast? Make sure to recommend it in the comments section on YouTube and on Spotify, and you will receive a shout out in a future episode. Want to be a guest on the podcast? Click on the sign up form link in the episode description for further details. If you like this episode or my previous episodes, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more interviews in the near future. The goal for this channel is to reach up to 100 subscribers both on YouTube and on Spotify. It's just that easy. And now, back to our regularly scheduled episode. Because I guess the only way that my understanding of why they wanted to come to this country is because they watch it through the movies and television shows because when they see what they think America looks like, they would always see it from movies, from TV shows, the celebrities, the icons that exist in the United States. They think that's what I think America is going to look like. It's going to be like, I'm going to live in this beautiful neighborhood where I get to make friends with some of the kids I see in those movies or TV shows, and I get to have a fancy job and I get to live this fancy life, and I get to be, embraced by all the people who welcome me into this country. That's something that I always get from maybe either my relatives or friends of my dad or anyone whom I was unaware of. That was how they understood what they think the United States looks like. It's through the pop culture, it's through mass media, it's through whatever they see on the television screen or on their computer screens now. That's what they think the American dream looks like when they see it through those images. So I don't know if you encountered any stories that this is what they thought America was going to look like based on maybe what they read or what they have seen on any of those mediums.
That issue is actually in the screenplay.
Okay.
One of the characters is a young girl in Ethiopia whose mother is dying. And on her deathbed, the mother makes this young girl promise her that she's going to pursue her dream. And
Mm-hmm.
what is her dream? To go
Mm-hmm.
and make the movies and live in America like she's
Mm-hmm.
seen on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So she gets to London. She makes it to London, and she gets stuck there. And she ends up growing up there, and as a young adult, falls in love. But that promise she made to her mother, and that desire is still to come to America to live that dream that she saw on TV, was so strong. Even though she had found her true love, she decided to part with him and come to the States, attend film school, and become a movie maker. And
Mm-hmm.
that, again, these are true stories. So that issue is in the screenplay. And again, she gave up potentially leaving her true love that she hopes that they would get back together, but she didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And she did that all based on what she had seen on TV, the image of America she had gotten through the boob tube, basically,
Mm-hmm.
which is amazing. But you're absolutely right. A lot of people that have an American dream in mind, it's what they see in TV. And of course, we know Leave It to Beaver and
Mm-hmm.
well, Father Knows Best and some of
Mm-hmm.
those old shows they base it on. I even heard Dick Van Dyke brought up by the old Dick Van Dyke show brought up by one person I talked to. They'd seen some of these old shows and they thought that's what it was really like living here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but even so, even with that, again, come once I interviewed them and asked them the question, well, what do you think now that you went through all that? And there's like, oh, it was the best thing I'd ever did. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's just a fascinating story to me. If you can't tell, I'm sure everyone's not going to find it as fascinating as I do, but I think a few might. It's a story out there. I'm not sure a lot of people are aware of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I can't believe you asked that because that is in the script. And Tessa's probably going to kill me because she's a little protective of the script right now because it's still
Oh.
in kind of young stages of it. But
Mm.
I think it's okay to share that one of the characters that's actually part of her story.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, no, no. I'm sorry. No, I just thought I brought it up because that was one of the most that was the same that was like the same answer I would ask like what they thought it was going to be like in the United States. I guess for my dad and for my relatives, just for them they would watch it through movies and through older reruns of television shows that they would watch like as you mentioned, like Leave It to Beaver, Dick Van Dyke, Father Knows Best, or maybe the Doris Day Show, or maybe Patty Duke Show, or all those older American shows that came out in the 50s and the 60s decade. That was what they thought America was going to look like. So moving on to I'll ask a few questions, and if you are unable to answer these questions because of maybe certain things going on right now in the stages, then we will skip over them. So first question. Okay. So, since we have discussed some of these, the inspiration and the importance of it. So, in terms of, trying to get the media attention, like, maybe attention of, like getting this message out there. Are there any other podcasts that you or Tessa might be willing to share this story if you have some updating news about if you were able to get like investors or financing or maybe any other updates on this project?
Well, from getting the word out, I think we'd consider anything that made sense to get the word out.
Mm,
It's an uphill battle, as you know, to do that when you're trying to put a film like this out there.
mm,
Tess, like I said, she's still a little protective right now because we are still trying. We've got some, we've got one investor lined up, and then we're getting very close, I think, to having everything in place with investors to start seriously moving into pre-production.
mm,
So that conversation is very much something we've been having, and the gist of what I've been getting from Tess more than with me, uh,
mm.
uh, I think, but from her, she's like, yeah, we'd be willing to entertain that. I'm not sure I'd be right to talk on every podcast, to be quite honest.
Okay.
I'm a writer. I've got my certain focus. You can see I'm a
Mm,
very, I don't know if I animate it's the right word, but talking, writers don't get a chance to talk a lot about their writing, so they're not the best. I guess I'm saying to be,
mm.
brutally blunt. So I'm not sure I'd be really fit for every podcast. So I don't want to give you the wrong impression, but yeah, getting the word out. There was any opportunities out there. I know we'd be willing to explore that because we're at that stage now where that's going to be pretty important to get the word out. Yeah, obviously, if it's not a right fit for the podcast, we don't want to waste their time and we don't want to waste our time. But somebody's in the business and they want to talk about a movie. Yeah, we'd be glad to talk about our movie. Sure.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so next question. If for somehow it doesn't work as a film project, and again, I'm not trying, it's gonna be like a yes or no type of answer. If it does not work out as a film project, would it be considered like a streaming project or as like a project that would be like a streaming project if the plans are not so successful. But again, it's a yes or no type of answer, or maybe a maybe answer.
You're going to classify me as a difficult interview. I'd say the answer is absolutely. Early
Okay.
on, when we were talking about whether I should get involved, and I asked Tess that to point blank. I said,
Hmm.
movies and new movies are hard.
Hmm.
You're going to want to think about approaching Netflix. You're going to want to approach Amazon. You're going to want to stream with anybody that would be willing to do it. You need to be
Hmm.
open minded. And there are other avenues these days. Things are starting to get pretty interesting.
They are.
So I think I'm a little more open to that because adapting the script, I don't think is as hard as Tess might see it. I think she sees it as a true feature film, and in some regards, she is because of the hyperlink nature of it and all. It really is,
Hmm.
and an hour and a half, maybe 2 hour long story that it'd be
Hmm.
hard to really condense it as it is, but to break it up into 10 episodes, absolutely. And so, yeah, the answer is yes. I guess it took me a while to be comfortable to say that, but
Hmm.
absolutely. Like I said, I threw that out at Tess early on in the process. That'd be something would
Hmm.
be more than willing to entertain.
Okay. So because I would have asked some questions with Tessa, um, you don't have to answer this question, but are you in the process of working on any other projects besides this one at the moment? Like any other sneak previews or maybe some hints of any other projects coming up?
Ooh, what can I say and what can I say? The answer is yes. So I can say that because
Okay.
we've certainly kicked things around. What the next thing will be, I don't know. And I want to call it the next thing because it's been so much work to get investors in line and get this film rolling. I don't
Mm.
want to take any attention off that effort, but I've gotten I've got 12 works in progress
Mm-hmm.
that is seriously ready to be made into
Mm.
movies.
Mm.
So just my stash
Mm.
two there, I think Tess is really interested in. So
Mm.
yeah, we've got irons in the fire, and but
Mm.
this the start to tease a specific project right now, I don't think would be proper. We just need to keep our focus on for love of the American dream right now.
Okay.
Getting the investors in line now. We're to that point where we've got them at the table. We got one who said yes, and we need to get those yeses, and we need to get that all in place. And then maybe we can start talking about what we're going to do next. But there is definitely some irons in the fire.
Mm. That's amazing. And I hope that it does. I hope to hear some good news or some updates on what goes on with this project. But I have seen the concept. Is it a concept trailer or is it like an actual trailer that I watched on the website for Love of the American Dream that I saw just to get an idea of what the project will look like? Because you mentioned on the hyperlink between between these people who came to this country, was it like a pitch trailer or how would you describe it?
Well, the hyperlink itself is actually there's an immigration rally on the mall in Washington, D.C.
Mm,
And it actually opens in kind of a very symbolic way,
mm,
uh, kind of make you remember that scene because you don't see it again until near the end of the movie because
mm,
that's the hyperlink that brings you all back.
mm,
And these characters, of course, being immigrants, they're all at this rally, and that's where their lives kind of crash together like they wouldn't crash or Babel or some of these other hyperlink movies you might be familiar with.
mm,
So it's a rally on the mall in Washington, D.C. that really binds them all together. And it really does kind of crash their lives all together because it's a pretty chaotic scene at the end when they do come together.
mm,
So that's what it's all about. So what I think you saw, and I'm pretty sure we're talking about the same thing, is
mhm.
really more of a concept presentation. I wouldn't call it a trailer, no, because there's a
Oh,
lot of detail about what how that hyperlink is, and there's a little bit more to it than that. That was really more of a concept being presented there than a trailer.
oh, all right then. Thank you so much. And as I said, I look forward to any new updates and anything new coming up. And before we wrap things up, what do you want to say to the to my audience who want to know about more about if this project does come to fruition, and if there are any new updates coming up, what would you want people to know about this project? Should it come maybe in theaters or on streaming platforms or on whatever they want to know, and also for what people need to know about this project and why it feels relevant today.
Well, I think we talked about why I think it's relevant today because immigration is still an issue. Whether we like it or not, it is still a very relevant issue. And if they are interested in the topic and they want to help out, there is a website. We've mentioned it. It's for loveoftheamericandream.com. Tess is, I think, considering even setting up I'd say, she got a, like GoFundMe. I don't think it was with GoFundMe, but a crowdfunding type
Mm-hmm.
uh, account set up. So you could even donate to help us get into the pre-production phase if you want to do that and get involved. And we're available. People want to talk to us, and if there are investors out there that want to help, that's really where we're at right now. As I've said a few times, we need to pin that all down. So that's the biggest help we could get right now. If people are interested, if they're willing to help, one of the things Tess has done, and I should probably give her credit for this now too, is she worked with interns over the years as we've been putting this together, but she went out of her way to take people. She has one that's here from Japan. They're all, I'll use immigrants in a broad umbrella way, which I don't really like to do, but they're from all over the world. Did that very purposely because she wanted to get them involved and kind of infuse some of that flavor into the project, even as we're working. So we really are trying to do this as a crowdfunding effort, even with the help with the interns like that, because it's been basically me and Tess getting this thing to this point. But if it does look like it's gaining steam right now, and if it is, we're going to need a lot more help. So we're kind of going through that growth phase right now, and so we'd be glad to talk to anybody who might want to help, that might want to get involved, or if they just want to learn more about it, they can get a hold of me. I'm not hard to find, or they can probably get a hold of Tess even, and we'd be glad to even talk to them directly. But the website's there for loveoftheamericandream.com, and that's a good place to start if they're interested or they want to get involved.
Okay. Thank you so much. And before we wrap things up, I'll make sure to put For Love of the American Dream on when this episode airs, so that people will get involved helping on this project. And where can people find you in case they want to talk with you, or maybe they want to learn more about you? Where would my audience want to find you?
You can get a hold of me at www.bionicwords.com, or you can just email me. My email address is ben@bionicwords.com.
Okay, thank you so much. And with that, thank you, Ben, for being part of this episode. And I hope that when this episode airs, that people will get interested in this project and learn more about what they can do to help. And it was wonderful speaking with you, Ben. And as I said, I wish I could speak with Tessa, since this was something that I thought she wanted to talk about. But it's better to know about somebody who worked on the project to share it with me. But thank you so much.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you having us on here. We were glad to talk about the movie, and we appreciate the time you gave us. So thank you very, very much. Uh,
Yes, thank you very much, Ben. And this is Jordan Ramirez signing off. And until then, I'll see you at the movies. And Ben, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And when the project does have any new updates, I hope we will see each other again very soon.
We'll give you updates if there are any to go come, I promise.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, bye.